Projectum xPM is part of the Microsoft Power Platform ecosystem. Ultimately, that means that we offer AI out of the box and in a secure way. It also means that we as users can work inside Projectum xPM and have AI understand the context of what we are doing and therefore guide us or help us with improvements or recommendations or even creating complete projects. And on that note, I'm going to present how it looks like when we create a project with AI. So first off, we are right now looking at all the projects and I can activate my Copilot up here in the top right corner. If I click here, Copilot will tell me that right now you can look at top 3 projects by value. You can do creation of new projects. You can look at governance, stay on top of something. If I were to click on portfolios, programs or something else, the guided experience from Copilot would be different, which is why it understands the context of where I am as a user and also why it can give better advice. So let's start by clicking on Create Project. In this case, Copilot will come back with a question to me, asking me about the name of the project I want to create. So then I'm going to say Demo 5000 V2. We are then asked to provide a project description, but also it says a good project description. And this is one of the great things about having AI in a low-code platform like Power Platform and in Projectum xPM, because you can decide both as admins or users, how a good description should look like without bringing tons of data, but essentially just describing in plain text or maybe even with your voice, what is the definition of a good description. And that can be attached to the experience so that the agent or the Copilot will look through what you have provided and look into whether or not this is accurate in terms of what good looks like. So in this case, let's try and write, I want to build a new house that is good. I would argue that is not a good project description. And also in this case, you can see now that the project description has been rejected. The reason is there is no measurable goal. So that's great if you're into OKRs and strategy management. And there's also a suggestion for what good looks like. For instance, build a new house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and a garage within 6 months. Would you like to try again and rewrite the project description? And you can then say yes. We're going to do that in just a second. I'm going to copy this one up here. So yes to that. And now we can just write it again. So I'm going to use the recommendation right here. And then we click the next button. Next question right now will be something around the cost side of things. So what is the expected 3-year budget? So again, I'm going to add 50,000 maybe as a tiny house. Expected 3-year benefits, maybe the same because we're not necessarily expecting to sell it. And then it has enough sufficient information from us. So the final question is, should we create the project? And here I'm presented with 2 options, created with risks and stakeholders. So essentially AI will draft up the project with a lot of things so that when I go into it the first time, it will be preloaded with something that I can continue working on from there. Alternatively, we just create the project by name and the description and no more than that. But let's try with this one. So create projects with risks and stakeholders. So project has now been created and therefore also I'm presented a hyperlink. And if I click on that, I'm carried over to the actual project that is now established. And you can see quickly that it has the name, the owner is there. If we also look here, we have a description. Let me just close this Copilot down like this. And it is right now with a comment saying it's been created because there's no status right now. The total budget is there, the benefits are there, and so on and so forth. The cool part here is that beyond just the meta tagging, which is great, of course, and a time saver, but if we look into the risks log right here, we can already now see all the risks that AI has proposed for us to work with. So it's not necessarily the end result, doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but it's the draft that gives you maybe that 70 or 80% to get started on, saving you a lot of time in the early phases of the project initiation. So down here, you see all these risks. There are 10 right now. Environmental impacts, safety incidents, so all of them related to the description of building a house. Again, if I go in and say I would like to get more risks, we can still use AI either in the shape or form of an agent like this. We could also do it by just clicking that button right here that says add AI generated risks. So let's just try to quickly add 5 more or 6 more. Create 6 risks related to electrical issues when building a new house. And then we just submit that. So this is the basic part of prompting, like many have tried with ChatGPT and similar tools, but right now in the context of the project. And right now it's refreshing the page basically because it has created the new risks. So if we go down here, we now have, just a second there, more risks than we had before. And we can see that some of them are probably related to the electrical aspects of building a house, such as electrical fires, voltage fluctuations, improper wiring, and so on and so forth. And if we open each risk up, AI has also, only if we wanted to, proposed a description of what it means to have improper wiring when building a house, and also how to mitigate improper wiring when building a house. The part that's great about this is that you will probably see that some of the more perhaps junior project managers are suddenly able to inherit the great learnings and lessons from the senior project managers. So quickly we will see that juniors can act more like seniors because AI will sort of close the gap between the two experiences. And the same thing goes if we look at stakeholders. Here again, we have a long stakeholder list of, in this case, 10 stakeholders typically involved when building a project. Project manager, sponsor, architect, construction team, and so on and so forth. If I wrote we should build a rocket, obviously it would be different types of stakeholders. And further down, it has also impact and interest assessed each stakeholder, also the type, if it's internal or external. And again, if we open it up, there could be a full description on how we should manage each type of stakeholder. So that whole stakeholder communication report can be populated for us by AI. So these were two basic examples. Another thing we are often asked about is how do we then create timelines and schedules with AI? Because it's not just text and not just a list, it's actually visually shown on a timeline. So let me just quickly click on timeline right here. And again, we are presented with the options there is for creating a timeline. That could be start from scratch, could be templates, but also of course the ability to start with AI. And when we select start with AI, we can then simply prompt our way forward towards getting a drafted project plan, including duration, start and end date, and so forth. So let's try to create again the build a new house in Denmark, starting from May 2025 and to be completed by December 2025. We could also write something like based on PMI methodology, Prince2, or maybe it's your project model that should be taken into consideration. So now AI is safely and securely creating the plan. So already now, if we go below here and just zoom out a bit, like this, we can then see that we have a planning phase, a construction phase, and something called final inspection and handover. If I expand this as well, we can also see that site selection starts early May because that was part of the prompt we gave to AI. We can also see that the last part down here ends around the start of 2026, so that the handover to the new owner is end of December. So also what we prompted to AI to help us with. So everything in between those 2 points are all the tasks that are proposed for us to work with. This might be too high level for some. Maybe you want to go more detailed into the, for instance, site preparation, but maybe you also don't know necessarily how to do site preparation. That's why we can go up here as well and click on work package. And once again, write tasks related to site preparation. You could also write more, of course, and click generate. And the same thing happens again. AI will now go in and identify checklists or tasks that are part of setting up site preparation so that the high-level plan now becomes much more detailed. So now we can see site survey, clearing and grubbing, excavation and grading. These are all things I'm not an expert in at all. So the only reason why I have those things as part of my plan now is because AI helped me. That's a good example on how we can have perhaps more junior profiles suddenly work more like senior profiles, mainly because we have that AI assistant that can close the gap between the two roles and experience levels. So again, going away from this one, we now have established the project plan, so that's great. We still have AI at the very top here, continuously summarizing a status for what we're doing. This is also based on a prompt, but in this case, a prompt that the company should set up so we have the same way of reporting progress on our projects across all our projects. If we then quickly click back on the Copilot here, on the right-hand side, We can also have it, of course, summarize tons of project data and not just one at a time. We could also have it do, for instance, a SWOT analysis. So example could be for this current project, we say, create a SWOT analysis. We're not saying for which project, but again, this agent, this Copilot understands the context. So it knows that the question has to do with the demo 5000 project, building a house. So let's just give it a few seconds and see if we can get a SWOT analysis up and running. There we go. So now we get a complete real-time updated view on demo 5000 V2. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? For instance, there is no projected ROI, which is true. We haven't added it. Opportunities, and then also threats. There's a lot about electrical fires, overloaded circuits, and why does it consider so many threats related to the electricity part of building a project and a house? Well, that's because when we did the risk log, we added in lots of risk related to electricity. So there's a good example on that anything we just did and created will be real-time picked up by AI and presented in a SWOT analysis or in a status report, in a stakeholder report, or whatever we would like to get drafted for us. Always remember, it's not the final version, but it's the draft that you can then use or not use. This was one example on how AI will assist and work with project managers to become more productive. The final thing I want to show is when we want to use AI across multiple projects or work items. So in this case, again, viewing a lot of data here, clicking on Copilot on the right-hand side, and then perhaps selecting one of these starting points, such as top 3 projects by value, for instance. And I can then change the prompt down here or just use it as is. So let's just use the example and click next. So AI will, based on the prompt that we have brought into play, pick up all the data and present to the user a summary. There we go. So now we have 3 top projects with the highest ROI: Wedding 2.0, EDA 123, and Carestream. And if we click on them, we are brought straight through to the actual project. So this concludes the example on how a project manager, but also other roles of PPM and XPM, can use an agent or a Copilot to become more productive. And again, it's all about the drafting. It's not about replacing anyone with anything. It's a Copilot. It's not an autopilot.